Cocaine shark is the new cocaine bear. Have you seen these stories?
No.
Nery Saenz is with me, comedian. You can see him at the Miami Improv August 24th, MiamiImprov.com for tickets. You haven't seen these stories?
No.
These like viral stories? They're total clickbait.
Is that the pun intended? The clickbait?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Click shark bait. So the story is that the sharks off the coast of Florida are eating cocaine bales that, of course, are prolific off our shores. You know, South Florida is the cocaine interdiction capital of the Americas. Just in the last month, there have been fishermen and beachgoers in the Florida Keys that have found what we call white lobster. Of course, that's the term. For weed, it's square grouper or seaweed if you find marijuana floating, but white lobster is the term of art. So apparently. All right, there's this article, a series of articles about these cocaine sharks. And here they come, Roy. I can hear them coming. Yeah. You hear that? Yeah, so the cocaine sharks are coming. And here's the thing, though. It's all in service to promote a documentary on the Discovery Channel for Shark Week.
For Shark Week.
By the way, I don't knock their hustle. I've been there.
Yeah.
It's tough to promote documentaries these days. I'll admit, but here's what they did. They did this study, but they shot it for this Discovery Channel Shark Week documentary where they dropped fake cocaine bales in the ocean to see how sharks would behave. So here's the thing. There's really not a lot to this, but I'm sure it's a very funny and entertaining documentary. And there's no question, by the way, that there is a shit ton of drugs in the waters off the coast. And last year, the Florida National University did a study that showed that they found, for 3 years, they studied the waters, 200 miles of waterway off of Florida, and they found 58 prescription drugs in a sample of 100 different fish that they looked at. One fish alone had 17 different drugs inside of it. Because when we flush our medication, or we pour them down the drain, or we take drugs and then we use the toilet, it all winds up in our waterway. So we have fish that are high AF out there right now. And
some fish have great blood pressure. They've been maintained. Their blood pressure has been maintained.
The atorvastatin, is kicking in, and they have, but very low cholesterol.
Very low cholesterol. Their acid reflux is down to a minimum.
Well, let me ask you. You spend a lot of time. You do a lot of gigs on cruise ships. So you've dealt with a lot of creatures at sea on cocaine before. Yeah. Not necessarily
not
sharks,
in the water.
But,
in the water.
But on the boat. On the ship. Really? So and I always laugh because what kind of you post on your Instagram some of the ridiculous and amazing crowd work you do.
Yeah.
But how do you work in a room? It's one thing when you're in a comedy club, right?
Yeah.
And you're I'm at the Miami Improv. This is a Miami crowd.
Sure.
I'm in Des Moines. This is a Des Moines crowd. Right. But on a cruise ship, it's a cross-section of humanity.
Yeah, it really is, because you do a show on a cruise ship, and it's really performing for somebody that lives in Idaho, sitting next to a dude from Opelika, sitting next to a dude, a lady from Kansas, and it's all this. But I just do me, and it's and then people who hate me weed themselves out. They're nah, we're fine, we don't want to. So you just kind of do that. But there's been multiple times where somebody will be yelling at a show, and with a stock line, people will be oh, that's the drink package talking. That guy's drunk. I have said many times, I'm do they have a cocaine package on this city? Because it's so funny. And then people start laughing, and then you can see the faces of people who are do they have a cocaine package? People are really I would take a cocaine package if they had one. And I always make the joke, I'm you got to ask for it. It's off the menu. You can't just, they're not going to advertise it, but you got to
Carnival,
ask for it.
They definitely do. Carnival Cowboys, they definitely have a cocaine package. Later on in the program, we're talking with, I know you're a fan of this guy, Ben McKenzie, star of the OC, star of Gotham.
Well, Gotham is what got me. I went back for the OC, but Gotham is what got me.
Young pre-commissioner James Gordon.
Correct.
In Gotham. Yeah. He is now an author. His new book came out just last week, Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. You can imagine there's a lot of Miami connections there on this story. And speaking of Miami connections, I had a segue there, and then I decided to kind of give up on it.
But cut bait.
Yeah,
we're going back to the shark. We're going back to the shark thing.
No,
bang bang, snort snort.
So we're talking about Governor Ron DeSantis this week because we have to talk about Governor Ron DeSantis this week.
Crystal fascist.
So he's doing, the campaign's not going well.
No.
They've laid off. I don't even know how many. They've laid off so many people that Rick Wilson of the Lincoln Project just tweeted. He's down to 3/5 of a campaigin.
That's
God damn.
That's Jesus.
Too soon?
Wow.
Nazis are his base.
So, and he's announced a reboot. We have some good artwork for his reboot. His reboot consists of about knee-high white rubber boots for Ron DeSantis. You remember those? When he was trying out for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleading squad there. But
he looks like he's about to film Debbie Does Dallas.
so
I'm like a gaucho.
Yes.
so Ron DeSantis was on a podcast this week, not this podcast.
No.
But
have you had him on the podcast?
No, we have, our invitations have gone
I dare him.
unanswered.
I double dog dare him.
I don't think he's responded to our requests. They're too busy posting.
Real talk. Have you actually requested, sent a request?
I think we have. We've invited Miami Mayor Francis Suarez on the program. We've invited Miami-Dade Mayor Danielle Levin-Cava.
Right.
Pretty much everybody we've talked about or criticized on the show has been invited on the program.
But nobody says, yeah.
Ghosted, baby.
Again,
Ghosted.
I'm only curious, and I'm not trying to, start anything, but I'm only curious because if somebody talks shit about me and then invited me on the show, there's a part of me that would be like, okay, bring it. I would love to have that face-to-face, interaction, but they're like, nah, we're fine.
The campaign reboot is not going well. Here's how he answered a question about January 6th, 2021 on the Russell Brand podcast.
It was not an insurrection. These are people that were there to attend a rally, and then they were there to protest. Now, it devolved, and it devolved into a riot, but the idea that this was a plan to somehow overthrow the government of the United States is not true, and it's something that the media had spun up just to try to basically, get as much mileage out of it and use it for partisan and for political aims. And so I know there were a lot of people that were there who were just there, and they didn't have any designs on doing anything. And so we just have to be honest about it. If somebody is honestly doing an insurrection against the U.S. government, then prove that that's the case, and I'll be happy to accept it. But all you're showing me is that there were a lot of protesters there, and it ended up devolving, in ways that was unfortunate, of course. But to say that they were seditionists is just wrong.
Wait a second. Did this guy miss? This guy is a Yale. He's a Harvard law trained attorney. Did he miss the trials of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, two separate trials in which his own constituents, in which Florida men were convicted of seditious conspiracy?
Didn't they admit it too? Didn't they be like, my bad? Like one of them was like, oh yeah,
I tripped and fell and did sedition.
Yeah, of course. That's a.
I mean, we inadvertently insurrected. It was premature insurrection. What is the? But by the way, a problem the fish off the coast of Florida don't have because they have all the necessary medication for that.
They're calm.
These are some hard fish.
I don't understand like that. Like I really wonder if he really just picks is there what's the stupidest thing I can say this week, or what's the craziest thing I can say that the not so quiet dog whistle would just
dog whistle.
Yeah,
you mean like foghorn?
Foghorn,
yeah.
right? That's what I'm asking. Like
the dogs are barking.
I'm sorry, Nery, was that a challenge? Well, you know what they say. Hit dog will holler. But was that a challenge, Nery? What is the craziest, dumbest thing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis?
I just want to know how he picks it. How he picks what he's going to say.
I feel like Fuentes has a clip keyed up just for this moment.
Well, you should talk to them about it. I mean, I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life. But the reality is, all of that is rooted in whatever is factual. They listed everything out. And if you have any questions about it, just ask the Department of Education. You can talk about those folks. But I mean, these were scholars who put that together. It was not anything that was done politically.
I probably should have set that up a little bit better. That was Ron DeSantis responding to the Florida Department of Education this week, announcing the new standards for Black history, which include the benefits of slavery.
Ooh, like what part of the education department? Who's in charge of the education? If it's not him, is it Jimmy the Greek? Who's coming up? Who the fuck is coming up with this logic? Where they're like, we're gonna put this in our itinerary here. This is gonna be part of the syllabus.
I think it's a very good question. The answer is former state senator from Miami and Hialeah, of course, Senator Manny Diaz Jr. No, not that Manny Diaz Jr., a different Manny Diaz Jr. This is a guy who, it was just in recent years we learned.
Wasn't he a teacher that he hit on students and stuff?
He was a teacher at Hialeah Miami Lakes High School, and he was known as a quote-unquote pervert teacher.
Right.
Okay, a pervert and inappropriate teacher. He was hitting on girls. He was commenting on their looks. He was rolling on ecstasy, allegedly, with students. He would talk about
at nightclubs, right? Like he was talking about like going to like Club Space, and it's
Club Space. He would talk Baja Beach Club. He would talk about doing drugs. He would be seen in his car allegedly rolling blunts when he was in the campus parking lot. And this is the guy now who is dictating, also, by the way, works for the largest charter school company in the state of Florida. So while he's destroying the public education system here in the state of Florida, he is personally profiting by misappropriating tax dollars into charter schools.
Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ!
He can't help us. He can't help us now.
I don't understand.
Nery.
Amen.
Nery.
It's a crazy story. Like this story has so many layers of crazy. There's just so many layers of bullshit. Oh God.
Nery, I'm so happy you were the guest co-host on what is a very special episode of Because Miami.
But I like being from Nicaragua. Nicaragua's a weird place. Even with Latinos, right? Like especially Miami. You mentioned fucking Nicaragua. People start yelling food at me. Like, hey, bro, fritanga. Fucking queso frito. I'm like, that's a weird fucking reaction to have to somebody telling you where they're from. There's 3 people that were from Cuba here on stage. Nobody yelled out croqueta, bro. Nobody yelled that shit out. It's fucking weird. Bro, carne asada. I'm like, well, all right, bro. Yes, it's fucking delicious. Leave me alone, bro. I'm not running a food truck, bro. Why are you asking me this shit?
Dr. Marvin Dunn is a former naval officer, professor emeritus at Florida National University, the former chairperson of FIU's Department of Psychology. He is the founder and president of the Miami Center for Racial Justice. He is also a very, very noted author. Black Miami in the 20th Century is one of those books that I recommend that everybody, when they say, what books about Miami do I need to read to understand this place? Black Miami in the 20th Century is one of the must-reads. He's also the author of A History of Florida Through Black Eyes. Go to dunnhistory.com for more information. He's also the man who said, if there is such a thing as the woke mob in Florida, I aspire to lead it. Dr. Dunn, you have long been on my wish list of people to have as a guest on this podcast. And what better week so you can help us answer the question of what were the benefits of slavery?
Jesus Christ.
You're serious, right?
Well, I mean, this is what we've heard. I'm a product, sir, of the Miami-Dade County public school system. And so I'm basically a functioning illiterate is what I'm trying to tell you. But it was a good school system when I was in there. And now I'm seeing the standards of the quality of education changing before my eyes. And one of the things that we've learned this week is that according to the Florida Department of Education, slavery was beneficial. So this was news to me. And so I'm wondering, what you think.
I was first shocked. I didn't believe that someone would say something like that, much less the state of Florida endorsing that. There were no benefits to enslavement. There just were no benefits to being treated like an object of property. There was no benefit of it at all. And even if there were, for the few, maybe 1% of the enslaved, once they were free, had some skills that were marketable, maybe 1% had some skills. What about the millions who died before emancipation? What benefits did they have? So this argument that we're hearing about slavery not being so bad, what about slavery in China and slavery in Asia? Why are our kids in a Black History course being asked to study slavery in China or Africa or Asia? Because they're trying to equivocate it as if everybody had slavery. America just was another country that had slavery. Don't knock us. American slavery was particularly evil. American slavery was the only system of slavery in which the enslaved were property. No one else did that except in this country. So to say everybody was doing it, and that's what's being enforced in the school system in Florida. And then to equivalent racial violence, I'll stop with just this last point. To suggest that there were times when Black people committed racially inspired violence against whites in Florida. That has never happened in the history of Florida that I know of. Just has not happened. They said it happened in Ocoee. They say that it happened in Rosewood. Did not happen. So next month, August 12th and 13th, I'm taking a school bus load of teachers, Miami-Dade teachers, to Ocoee and to Rosewood, and I will teach them the truth in person at those places next month.
And Florida is, in fact, Doctor, one of the top states for lynching, for racism. People don't. In Miami, it's hard to realize that we were a Jim Crow. We were part of the Jim Crow South. Florida has.
It was not one of the top states. If you lived in Florida during the lynching era, your chances of being lynched were greater than if you lived in Mississippi, Alabama, or any other southern state. It was an intensely violent period in Florida. So just setting the record straight. Now, that's not mentioned in these new standards. The word lynching is buried, I think, twice in a sentence here and there. There should be a whole section on these people who died at the hands of racial violence. So anyway, that's just one of the problems I have with this, that suggests that there were times when Black people committed racial violence against whites. Simply has not happened in Florida history.
And to me, the tell here, or the giveaway of what the actual motivations are here, not just what they are teaching, but as you brought up, what they won't allow to be taught. You are a plaintiff in the ACLU's lawsuit against the state, claiming that the Stop Woke Act amounts to unconstitutional, racially motivated censorship. I mean, I have to wonder, sir, have your books been banned, or could they be banned from Florida schools?
My book, The History of Florida Through Black Eyes, if a Dade County school system or any teacher in any school system in Florida had that book in his or her classroom, they could be fired. That book talks about institutional racism. It talks about how Florida was bathed in it from the very beginning. Teachers can't be teaching that anymore in Florida schools. So it doesn't take the banning of a particular book. I'm so glad you asked that question. It's not the book banning itself that is so bad. It is the banning of ideas. If you ban the ideas, the books will follow. So if you say the idea of institutional racism cannot be discussed in a classroom in Florida, you don't need to name books, starting with mine. So we've seen this playbook before. They saw it in Europe in 1933 when the Nazis came to power, using some of the same things, defining morality. In this case, we're now all supposed to be Judeo-Christians. That's the new push from the conservatives, and to have the school system replete with this message that we are a Judeo-Christian nation. I'm a Christian, but I don't appreciate that. What about the folks who are not Christians or Jews in our country? They don't count. It's a backward slide in our nation that I am now 83 years of age cannot believe that it's come to this.
I cannot believe that in 2023, the year of our Lord, we have to have a conversation with the phrase slavery had no benefits. Like, that's insane to me, that's something that needs to be said, out loud. And on that note, we have experienced, particularly in the state of Florida, a lot of marginalized and underserved communities being targeted by this government. The LGBTQ plus community, women, all women. But there seems to be a particular target on the back of Black Americans, Black Floridians, Black history. There has been no suggestion that we teach in our public schools the benefits of the Holocaust to my people. There has been no suggestion that we teach the benefits of communism. I mean, they have free health care in Cuba, but nobody suggests that we talk about the good parts of Cuba. Don't talk about the fact that thanks to the oppressive communist government in Cuba, so many people baseball players flee to America and we get all kinds of great baseball players. So isn't that a benefit of communism? No one has suggested that we adjust our curriculum. Why the target on black history?
Because it gives political leverage if you're trying to appeal to the right. Have you noticed that every 4 years when we get into a presidential cycle, election cycle, somehow race comes up? Every 4 years. And Republicans are the ones who raise it. It's a plan. They know that that's a sore point in the underbelly of our national history, where we would rather not have that exposed to people. But they bring it up because they know that there are folks who rally around the fear that these debates always render. And this time with DeSantis, it's the worst that I've seen in my lifetime. May I just add one other thing about that? I spent 6 years as a naval officer defending my country on aircraft carriers. It was the proudest time of my life. And I know that I live in the best country in the world. I'm an American citizen. But one of the reasons that I'm one of the professors who is suing the state of Florida is I simply will not accept any restraints on my speech except civility. So when the state of Florida tells me I can't mention institutional racism, really? Stop me.
Dr. Dunn, I would say the point that you made about the political points that these lawmakers are looking to score, that might be proof in and of itself of the very institutional and systemic racism that they won't allow to be taught in the schools, no?
Good point. Good point, well taken. My first work in history really went into the history of Miami, of our own community, where I was raised. The city of Miami was just born in institutional racism. There was not one institution in the birth and evolution of Miami that was not institutionally racist. Business, the police, education, entertainment, even the church. So when you say you can't teach that there were institutional racist practices in your community, then what are we supposed to teach? How are we supposed to deal with that history? Right now, I think what DeSantis and others want us to do is to ignore it and suppress it. And that simply is not going to work.
Go to Dunn History, that's DUNN history.com. Read his books, find out more about his Teach the Truth tour, find out about the upcoming Teach No Lies tour for teachers coming up in August. Dr. Marvin Dunn, thanks so much for being here. Please come back again.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You know the Wheel of Issues. Well, today on Because Miami, we're introducing a new segment, Wheel of Corruption. Because Miami. Nery, you've been muted.
Oh.
You've been muted. Sorry.
Right.
That was censored. That was classic.
That was classic.
Classic Florida censorship.
Censoring the comedian. I see how it is.
Yeah,
I see how this show
absolutely.
is.
You've been canceled right here in the middle of the podcast, Nery. So on the Wheel of Corruption today, the corruption includes Miami-Dade Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, City of Miami Commissioner Alex Diaz-Laportilla, State Senator Fabian Basabe, and Miami Mayor Francis Suarez. Roy, shall we spin the wheel?
All right. Let's see what I landed on. State Representative Fabian Basabe.
Nery, do you know who Fabian Basabe is?
I have no idea who Fabian Basabe is.
Let me tell you something. Of all the things we're about to say about him on this show, that's going to be the thing that offends him most, is that you don't know who he is.
I've never even heard those syllables put together in that order.
Oh, yeah. He is beside himself about that right now. This guy is a classic narcissist, like faux, fabulous reality show reject kind of guy. I mean, just this. In fact, let's put up this tweet. This is a tweet last week from City of New York councilman Eric Botcher, who writes, I knew Fabian Basabe from gay bars in NYC in the early 2000s, and I'm rather shocked to learn he's a straight, married Republican lawmaker in Florida who voted for the Don't Say Gay bills. So this is a guy, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, just like a classic. He's known as Miami's George Santos. He's like this, we call him like Fabian Kunanen. He's like a classic amorphous kind of grifter character. He's married with a young son. He also has a boyfriend who he kind of parades around Tallahassee with. He's now been accused by not one but two of his young male legislative aides and an intern of pervasive sexual harassment, including groping a young man in the back of an elementary school classroom in North Beach during career day. He grabbed his buttocks and said the following:
"I want all of that butt." That's
what he told him in an elementary school classroom. And
did he really say that? Is that what he's being accused? The phrase, or did you get that clip from a movie, or is that like?
I'm glad you asked. We have a song for that.
Miami Beach State Representative Fabian Basabe is accused in a lawsuit of sexually harassing former intern and his legislative aide.
Basabe stated to his legislative aide, "I want all of that butt."
George Santos, he would blush, 'cause your grifting is too much. Ooh, Fabian Basabe, Miami's right-wing queen. In Miami, the bar's real low for who's elected and runs the show. From inside your glass closet, you're pushing policy blatantly anti-gay. Don't say gay, but you have a boyfriend and have a wife. You love living a double life, harassing aides and interns, not announce a class, 'cause you want all of that. You want your intern's ass. You are the right-wing queen, lying, fraud, racist, and obscene. Right-wing queen, you get off on the self-loathing, oh yeah. Criminal misogyny. So you gotta lock her up. Sugar mommy, Miami's right-wing queen.
George Santos! Hi, George Santos!
Roy, I'm going to venture a guess that's going to be the first elected official that makes one of our parody songs their ringtone.
Probably, yeah.
I think he's gonna love that. Nery, so he's married to the heiress of the La Perla lingerie fortune. That's
first of all, she looks gorgeous, like
beautiful,
right? Stunning,
yeah,
right?
Beautiful.
My question is, is that an open, or is that is it open? Is it known that he's? Because you guys got...
We're talking about it right now.
No, but I'm saying, but you guys got actual pictures of him kissing men. And again, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying...
in the cart of not that there's anything wrong with that.
What I'm just asking is, is the wife aware, or is this like a openly thing? Is this an open thing, like, hey, I'm bisexual? I'm fine with that too.
I don't pretend to understand the nuances or inner workings of a marriage or relationship. That's entirely their business.
Sure.
The concern here is this guy is a grifter and a criminal who votes to the right of the Taliban.
Right.
And this is a guy who is a notorious racist.
The right of the Taliban.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who...
I could just picture the Taliban looking at him going, whoa, whoa.
This is the kind of guy who, when he doesn't get into, like, a club... at an Art Basel party, he calls the publicist an N-word bitch. Like, he's that kind of guy.
Jesus,
like, this is the kind of guy who gets arrested for DUI, public urination. He took a woman's phone, threw it into the ocean, and then fled and wound up getting brought back to Miami by the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. Now, these were youthful indiscretions that he made back in, like, 2021.
Right.
So, when he was his early 40s. The errors of a young man.
Who one of us has not made an error in their early 40s? That weekend. That's so stupid. He saw that. That's amazing. I'm like, this is my first time watching the video, so I have no idea who he was. So this is me learning
and knowing
of our state representative.
Knowing is half the battle. Roy, let's spin the wheel of corruption.
All right. Landing on Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava.
Hi. Dios mio. Where do I begin?
Your favorite. You vouched for her, man.
Vouched for her.
You did when she was running. You said, "I believe in her." I have that post. I saved it. It's my screenshot.
No, I was lied to.
This is Matt. Matt says we need more guests that are going to call Billy out right in front of his face. This is what you meant. Like, why don't we invite people on? Call them out right to their face. I absolutely did endorse her. Full-throated endorsement of her. And guess what? I'm not in a cult.
Sure.
So our job in a democracy is to look at the best of the worst candidates in a given race. Mm-hmm. We pick the person we think is going to do the job best. And then whoever wins, we have to call them out. We have to hold them accountable. I don't make excuses for her just because I voted for her and encourage other people to do it. My job now is to tell you when she's screwing up.
So you're flip-flopping. You're flip-flopping. Just say you're flip-flopping. Just say you're flip-flopping.
What I'm doing is I'm doing the right thing. And I will tell you right now, in hindsight, even looking back at that election, she was still the best candidate running. And she has dropped the ball in a big way. And the people who voted her into office, she has not stabbed us in the back. She has stabbed us directly in between the eyes.
There's an episode of South Park where they did every election is between a douchebag and a
turd sandwich.
And I think whichever decision you made, I guess that's
yes, a giant douche or a turd sandwich. By the way, I like that I have live fact checking in my ears right now. This is the important shit going on at this program. This is a multi-million-dollar media company. You know, we have fact checkers in my ear. Giant douche or turd sandwich.
Turd sandwich.
That's exactly right. So Danielle Levine Cava, Cruella Levine Cava, as we have her here, has had a banner bad week. I don't even know where to begin, but the worst of it is that it turns out that the county has sending cops to people's homes to seize their dogs, their family pets.
That's brutal.
For euthanasia. But here's the thing: they don't notify the owners.
Asians? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
This you've been canceled.
Mute
his mic.
I literally have a friend who said that to me one time. When I had a day job 1,000 years ago, I had a day job, and he was like, "We need to euthanize this company." And I was like, we all looked at each other like we were in a group, and I said, "What do you?" He said, make it younger, like get rid of the old people, make it younger. I go, "That's not what this means, though. That's not what that." But English is not his first language, obviously. But we all knew immediately. It was like, this is not what he meant.
What he should have told you was, "Don't quit that day job." That's what he should have told you. But so it turns out they've got 21 dogs that they seized, never notifying the owners, by the way, that there's a court hearing, that we're going to take your dog away, and we're going to
kill your dog.
The county is going to come in your home, seize your family pet, and kill your dogs. Now, and it turns out that this is like an epidemic here in the county. But honestly, that's the best thing we learned about Danielle Levine Cava in the last several weeks.
But you said 21 dogs?
So far that we know of.
And this calendar year?
I don't know what the time frame is, but WSVN has discovered at least 21 of these cases, which, by the way, could cost taxpayers a lot of money because these owners could say our constitutional rights were violated. You murdered our family member, and now you got to pay. And so I think we have just enough time for one more spin of the wheel of corruption.
All right, we got the city of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez.
Mr. Mayor, you're brilliant. You were super smart.
Oh, I don't even want to talk about him. I don't even want to talk about him. So the latest on Francis Suarez is, and this is not going to do much to dispel the theory that his presidential campaign is nothing more than like a money laundering operation. But he is now, his super PAC and a donor is under investigation because it turns out that some 11-month-old artificial flower company with no imprint other than some obscure storefront on Amazon Marketplace
Etsy
donated $500,000 to him.
Okay.
To his super PAC. And the only evidence they can find is that this is apparently a Chinese company. So it may be that they're trying to obscure an illegal foreign contribution. And this is a guy who has been very, very vocal against the Chinese communist government. Somebody call the Weebles.
Let my Weebles go.
So, Francis Suarez, it's not so much a presidential campaign as it is like a quasi-legal lottery. Have you seen the tickets, the raffle tickets he's been selling? Donate $1 to my campaign, and you can win, tickets to see Messi play. Donate $1 to my campaign, you can get tickets to like a Pitbull concert. Right. Donate $1 to my campaign, I'll give you a $20 gift card. I swear to God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does he get the tickets in a chocolate bar and then like the winner, like he gotta get like the golden ticket? Like that would be the next level. That would be the next level of marketing.
Ay, Dios mío.
Underhanded man-child fail, son.
Before he starred in the hit series The OC for 4 seasons on Fox, before he was a young pre-commissioner, James Gordon in Gotham for 5 seasons, before he was nominated for no less than 6 Teen Choice Awards, the Susan Lucci of the Teen Choice Awards, by the way, and ranking on various important lists like the 100 Sexiest Men Alive, 25 Sexiest Stars Under 25, and 10 Hottest Bachelors of Summer. He attended the University of Virginia, where he majored in foreign affairs and economics, which is kind of what brings us to his first book, just published last week, Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud, co-authored with journalist Jacob Silverman. Ben McKenzie, we've been told that cryptocurrencies are decentralized and will democratize the financial world, that crypto will help the unbanked and underbanked to more easily engage in financial transactions, that crypto is a hedge against inflation and untethered, pun intended, from traditional market fluctuations and volatility. Is any of that true?
No!
All right, thank you. Good night.
All right.
Buy the book. Yeah. So you have called it, you've testified in front of the Senate Banking Committee. You said the following. You said that, in your opinion, crypto is the largest Ponzi scheme in history by an order of magnitude. In fact, it may represent a fraud at least 10 times bigger than Bernie Madoff. Why?
So we usually measure Ponzi schemes, at least in popular opinion, by the sort of purported size. Obviously, a Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent scheme, so the numbers, they'll say it's worth whatever, but it really matters sort of how much money is still left when the scheme collapses. So Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme is generally considered to be the largest. Up to this point, that was 65 billion. I think they found like 20-ish. Which actually was pretty good because the actual money that had gone in was 20-ish. So I think they found like 75 cents on the dollar. So crypto, if it is effectively a Ponzi or a multi-level marketing, you'd value that at 3 trillion, which was the crypto market cap in November of 2021, right about when Jacob Silverman and I started writing about how it was baloney. So if that's true, then 3 trillion as opposed to 65 billion. I mean, you can do the math, but it is an order of magnitude bigger if that's how we're judging.
Carry the one.
But why? Oh yeah, Nery's doing the math right now.
Carry the
do you have your iAbacus app on your phone? Can you want to?
Yeah. Sorry, I mean somebody do that for me. But
3 trillion. Hold on, I'm still pressing zeros. Hold on, zeros.
Yeah, exactly.
but Ben, why? Well, why is it a Ponzi scheme though? Why is that everything that we've been pitched about crypto, as you said, is not true?
Sure. So if you go to the SEC's website, Security Exchange website, a government website, be careful.
They're tracking my shit, yo.
They have a page devoted to Ponzi schemes, 7 red flags for Ponzi schemes. Crypto checks off 5, arguably 6 of the 7. Here's a couple. Unregistered, unlicensed investments. If you are investing in something that's unregistered, unlicensed, which effectively cryptocurrencies are as securities, then that's a red flag. If they're being sold on unregistered, unlicensed exchanges, that's a red flag. And if they promise you a guaranteed return on your money above market, that is a red flag for Ponzi's, which companies like Celsius, whose CEO I interviewed, they claimed stuff like that. That's a lie. You can't. All investments carry risk. You cannot guarantee above market return, meaning above, say, T-bills, which are treasury bills, which are considered to be, effectively riskless in the sense that they're backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. You can't guarantee return. No one can predict the future. So that's a sign that they're lying to you. So when I looked at crypto as this novice, I was like, wait a minute. 5 or 6 of the 7 red flags are checked off immediately? What the hell? this looks like, it's a Ponzi scheme / multi-level marketing scheme. It has aspects of both. I go into it in the book, but
I recall your first public display of skepticism on this subject was, shall I diplomatically say, your concern about celebrity endorsements of crypto and basically taking financial advice from actors, singers, and athletes who are being paid to promote these instruments. So I mean, that seems to be the seed of much of this for you, right? You were like, what the hell is going on here on television?
Oh, that was pretty dispiriting to see my colleagues do that. Actually, I give Jacob Silverman a lot of credit here. Jacob, my co-author in the book, he pointed out to me, I was blind to this, but we were like, look, how are we going to sell a book about how crypto is baloney when there's all evidence to the contrary, right? When crypto is supposedly worth $3 trillion. He said, well, let's write articles and let's start with, criticizing other celebrities because that'll give us, that'll attract some attention. And it's true, of course. And so we started with that, and then we wrote articles. So that was in Slate. We wrote articles for The Intercept, The Washington Post, The New Republic. But yeah, I mean, the celebrities were it was ridiculous. It was absurd. I mean, they're not licensed financial advisors. They're not supposed to be giving financial advice. They're not hawking car insurance or soap. They're hawking unregulated, unlicensed financial products. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And how did it work? Everyone wants to know. Well, the celebrities got paid in real money to convince you to take your real money and turn it into something else. It's pretty simple.
And
I was really pissed off about it, so I decided to write about it with Jake.
And they clearly didn't do the cursory Googling on the subject that you had started to do enough to know that maybe I shouldn't be hawking this crap.
It's a bizarre decision because, really, I think goes to the heart of how little people pay attention to this stuff. Look, your agent comes to you or your manager or whoever and says, hey, you can get X dollars, millions of dollars for doing basically nothing. And the celebrity goes, where do I sign? If you had just spent a little bit of time thinking about it, does it seem too good to be true? Right? Don't do it. And I'm not saying they had bad motivations. I'm not. I would imagine most of the celebrities just didn't really think about it and just were like, okay, great. I mean, the Matt Damon ad, he was probably done by lunch. I mean, he walks around an empty warehouse pointing at random stuff that isn't there, that they're going to add later in CGI. I mean, how long could that possibly take? But it's a lack of due diligence, and it speaks to that the celebrities are not the core problem. Of course, they're just the megaphone necessary at the end of the Ponzi life cycle. You have to get as many people in as possible, right? And eventually, if it gets this big, you end up with the most famous people in the world shilling it on the Super Bowl, the biggest advertising event of the year. And so, as disappointing and sort of depressing as it was to witness that in February of last year, it almost felt like, well, it can't go up from here. It's probably going to go down. And sure enough, it did.
There is always a Miami connection. For the last 3 years, the Bitcoin conference has taken place here in Miami. No longer. Next year, I think it's in Nashville. But you came to...
What?
You came to... Yes, sorry. Yeah. Inflation's too high here. But even though I thought it was, not supposed to be inflationary cryptocurrency, nonetheless, you attended really what was the last hurrah, which was Bitcoin 2022. In fact, it was basically crashing almost in real time while they were desperately here in Miami trying to pump it. I mean, Peter Thiel was pumping and dumping simultaneously, ensuring that he was not going to be the last man, holding the bag there. But you were here in Miami. It's a fabulous scene. It's like Fear and Loathing at Bitcoin Miami. This scene, because it's a bit of gonzo journalism, the book, where it's told in the first person about your journey through the crypto con and coming to Con Man Con down here in Miami. There's some wonderful quotes, like this quote about Brock Pierce. You write, like so many people I interviewed in Miami, Brock appeared to become uncomfortable when asked basic questions, which to me describes talking to almost anybody in Miami. But can you just set the scene a little bit about what Bitcoin 2022 was like, these characters? And I'll tell you right now, I will pay good money for your Jesus for Bitcoin shirt. I do a lot of Goodwill hunting for merch like that, I will have you know.
I've got it. It's amazing. I'm sorry, it's not for sale. It is. I will carry that around. You know, it doesn't even fit me correctly. I was doing push-ups. So we walked on the convention floor. So it's basically just a trade show. I mean, that's the kind of the long and short of it, except it's wrapped in all this language of like, well, that's going to free everybody. We're all going to make money. So, you know, it's like any trade show. It's like, what's up?
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So like any trade show, you know, it's Americana. It's overpriced stadium food, overpriced beer.
And they don't take Bitcoin for $8 beers.
Yeah, I tried to pay. So I went to the main bar there, which was behind this massive volcano that they had built to symbolize the issuance of Bitcoin bonds in El Salvador. Unfortunately, the headliner for the event, the president of El Salvador, couldn't make it in person because there was a gang warfare that he needed to deal with. So
as one does,
because El Salvador,
as one does.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and unfortunately, because America, if you wanted to go deep, we're largely responsible for the state of that country. Anyway, so there was this massive, basically like a high school science project on steroids. This huge like volcano that like burped steam. You know, it was ridiculous, like literally like hundreds of feet high. And behind it was a bar. And so, of course, I asked the obvious question: can I buy my $9 Bud Light with some Bitcoin? Unfortunately, their Bitcoin into real money machine was down. But you know,
it's
I
like
thought
the McDonald's. It's like the McDonald's machine for
ice cream.
For the ice cream.
Yeah,
it's like
always down.
It's
always
down. Oh, it's always down. It's never
up. How annoying it is to order at McDonald's. By the way, my daughter is 7. Like, of course, she wants me to go to it. So I really try to go. I've gone to McDonald's now twice in the last and that machine is so annoying.
It's all down. It's always down. It's
so
always
dumb.
I like the fact that you try to clarify. You try to, dude. I'm fat. You don't got to tell me why you're going to McDonald's. I got you, man. I feel
this is Ben's next book right now. The McDonald's ice cream
machine.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. I mean, I start big and I go small. Yeah. So yeah, there's so many great details in Miami. I mean, my favorite detail was your beloved mayor. Your beloved mayor was he did the unveiling of the Bitcoin bull, which was like an homage to the Wall Street original, like this big bull that was made of like fiberglass and steel, and it was like, you know, going to symbolize the future of money and all this stuff. It actually looked pretty kind of cool in a little over the top way. And Mayor Suarez was like, in Miami we have big balls. There's just one problem: the bull didn't have any balls. Or any dick, for that matter. The bull was unfortunately of the castrated variety. So I asked various people standing outside admiring this bull and taking selfies with it and all that. I was like, have you guys ever heard of incels? They hadn't. It was very disappointing. Anyway, I you know, it was a weird, man. It was interesting because like you're talking to those people and they believe in it. I mean, they're also trying to sell you stuff. Like, let's be honest. Like there was a husband. That's weird. There was a father-son team selling panties for Bitcoin. It's a family business where they were trying to sell you panties for Bitcoin. I don't know why. Maybe he worked in the undergarments industry and they had product and they wanted. I don't know. It was very weird.
Maybe he just saw his audience and he was like, "This is gonna sell here."
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at the things, I mean, I'm not
again
on the subject, but it was not of high quality, shall we say?
Yeah, I'd take a Jesus for Bitcoin thong as well at this point. Ben McKenzie, author, Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud, along with Jacob Silverman. I love this book. I had so much fun with it. I could talk to you about it for hours. This guy interviewed Sam Bankman-Fried.
Of course.
I mean.
Yeah,
got some investment advice from that guy. Ben, congratulations on the book and good luck with it.
Thanks, Billy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you to Ben McKenzie. Thank you to Dr. Marvin Dunn. Most importantly, thank you to Nery Saenz. See him live August 24th at the Miami Improv. Go to miamiimprov.com for tickets. Please come back and roast me anytime.
I love this. Is fantastically great. Like I would love that. Thank you very much. And make sure you check out my website. If you can't remember Nery Saenz, you go to whatwashisname.com. That's a real website.
That's seriously right. Whatwashisname.com.
What was his name?
Is that when people say they leave the club? They're like, what was his name?
He was pretty good. What was his name? They say that all the time. I get that all the time. So whatwashisname.com. I have another one, but it's part of one of my bits. it's a whole thing. Well, what was his name.com is a thing. Yeah.
I love it. Not that I need to be roasted. It's 6,000 degrees outside. The ocean water hit 101.1 off the coast of Florida. That's hot tub.
That's why the sharks are doing the coke, man. It's
too hot, dude.
It's too hot.
It's too hot. This week's Miami moment is Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, a.k.a. Ponzi Postalita, at the right-wing Turning Point conference last week in West Palm Beach. And he did not get a very good greeting there. He was heckled with cries of rhino and traitor cocaines.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the beauty of our country.